Now, you guys may recall during the pandemic, there was all kinds of shenanigans going on. And some of us who maybe had some questions about the official stories that were being passed around that were going to describe behavior that made absolutely no sense across the board, thought maybe they might have been trying to have people die. You know, it was like, they're putting them on ventilators. It's like, yes, what's the survival rate? Once someone's on a ventilator, they're like, 10%, something like that. So you're implementing a treatment that has a 90% death rate. Yes, because if we don't, then what's going to happen? Well, I don't know. It seems like you are knocking them off on purpose. So how would we know? That was really bizarre that was happening in New York. And then we found out that there was a policy implemented that the active patients were going to be quarantined where? Well, in old folks' homes, of course. Wait, hang on. You're going to put people who have the virus into old folks' homes, like retirement homes. Yes, and the average age there is, they're all, I don't know, over 80. Certainly in their the twilight of their years. And you're all in what age group is most likely to die if they do catch the virus? They're all, well, old people, of course. So why? What's your point? What's my point? You're putting the people who have the virus with the population most likely to die if they catch the virus? That makes sense to you? They're all, listen, there's a lot of moving parts here, Jesse on Fire. You don't want to look too deeply into any of it. But we are going to find out at least why that decision was made right now from this hidden camera that caught one of the attorneys, who's the senior counsel for the New York Department of Health, claiming that Cuomo had actually been blackmailed into making that decision. Really? Did you say blackmail? I would never imagine such a thing in the American government. I mean, when this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing happened, I thought that was definitely an isolated incident, that this would never happen in any other time. Right? It was only him that was down to blackmail people. Okay. So we're going to look at this, this 4-minute indictment of everything that people on the left have come to believe about the reasons that these things happen, and basically a validation of everything that the people who are on the right, well, I wouldn't even say the right, just the people who've been paying attention, I would say, believe about how these decisions are made, which is corrupt across the board. Now, in my case, as it relates to the Andrew Cuomo thing, was operating under the assumption that he had made the deal to put all the sick people in the old folks' homes due to some gigantic financial kickback that he was getting. Because obviously, when you are deciding where you're going to put patients that you want to quarantine, the state is paying the place that you put the patients. And so I could only imagine how much money these old folks' home were getting for taking them in, so I just assumed it was like money. And I'm like, Cuomo was like, I don't care about these people. Give me that money. But blackmail is just as corrupt and almost as funny, Now, to anybody whose parents died of COVID, during like the beginning of this New York thing, I apologize. I'm not trying to make light of it. Obviously, this is probably going to be salt in your wounds, and I totally understand that. But I can't cover things that are this absurd any other way than by making fun of them. So it's going to happen. I'm not actually making light of your parents' death. I just am making light of every other thing. All these people are pure scum. Okay. They're all pure scum. Now, speaking of pure scum, okay, in the second segment that we're going to cover today, we are going to cover this hidden camera of a trans activist youth director caught on hidden camera discussing how he helps kids transition behind their parents' backs. So that's nice. Okay. So I know that if it were me, right, and my kid was confused about whatever, and a youth pastor helped them, I don't know, castrate themselves as an example, and then go on, opposite sex hormones, and they did it behind my back without telling me, I would probably be fine with that as long as my kid was happy. I'd be like, hey, listen, obviously the pastor knew better than me, and I'm really glad that we put our faith and trust into that person, as opposed to being like, when do they get home when we know no one will be around? Do you think that there's a back door to their house that we could slide in? We should probably look around for Ring cameras just to make sure that we're not going to get, seen on the way in or out. Because I just want to have a conversation with them, like behind everyone else's back. I just want to go behind everybody else's back so I can have a conversation with him. Because, that's what he wanted to do with my kids. So, like, I feel like I should be able to do the same thing. I don't think that's unreasonable, right? But this one's insane. It's 8 minutes long. I watched the first 3 minutes, stopped it because I'm like, I need to react live to this for my, my community, which is exactly what you guys are. And I love you guys. So By the way, if you want to become a part of this community, all you have to do is like this video and subscribe to the channel. All the people in my community already know they like the videos every time. I have one of the highest like ratios of any channel when I cover things like this. And that's because you guys are the best. You guys are the best. I freaking love you guys. Okay. I would have used an F word, but people have been asking me not to do that as much. And so when I was actually giving you guys praise, I feel like I should be respectful of the people who don't want me to use F-bombs. I'm for sure going to in this video though, because when it comes to kids, you know, or parents and stuff like being killed by the government, I can't help myself. I lose control. So buckle in, and that is what we're going to do. But we're going to start with the blackmail one because, my goodness. Now, one thing about this particular guy I want to say is, do you guys notice that there seems to be a very high percentage of these guys that what's the right way to put this, are gay, you know, like just in government in general, like in these roles where I'm kind of like, this is like, it's almost getting bizarre unless they, for some reason, are easier to entrap on hidden cameras. Maybe that's what it is. You know, I got no issue with gay people, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, there seem to be getting, you know, like a lot of gay people getting caught on hidden cameras lately, right? Certainly both in the video today. So if you happen to be attracted to the same sex, look out for people who want to entrap you into admitting to crimes on video and then put it on the internet, because it's probably going to be pretty rough on your career. So I'm just saying, take extra precautions if you happen to be a dude who likes to swallow hoses. What? Swallow hoses? What are you implying? Nothing. Okay? Nothing. All right, let's go.
Some of the allegations are 100% fake because those girls were sitting on his lap taking selfies with him.
So he was being blackmailed.
It kind of was. So there's a new law that Governor Cuomo signed when he was at the end of his term. When Cuomo was getting that investigation, he didn't have a lot of political power. His political power went down, right? Yeah. And so he was pushed to sign this group of legislation. So it's like several pieces of legislation that are like all together regarding nursing homes. Okay. But it was written so poorly, like, we can't implement it. Like, our Department of Health, we're trying to implement it. It's just, we can't do it.
Who wrote that?
The Nurses Association.
So that he was forced to sign it?
Yeah, pretty much.
On the eve of the New York mayor's Democratic mayoral primary election, former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani are neck and neck in the polls, and questions still linger about Cuomo's final days in office as governor. Last year, New York State Department of Health Senior Counsel Jacob Wilkinson, who worked for former Governor Andrew Cuomo and Governor Kathy Hochul, met with our undercover OMG.
Dude, Hochul is so scary looking. Of all of the people in government where I look at their photograph and I'm like, I can tell this is a really scary person and someone who probably has been around an altar with a hood on while a baby. Oh my God, this is such a terrible, terrible joke. Stop, Jesse on Fire. My instincts are telling me to put a picture of her face up on the screen with like a quote that says something like, I love pizza on it, you know? Like, that's where my brain's at today, okay? Just for the record. So I'm having to temper myself immensely, okay? Let's continue.
Journalist in New York City. Wilkinson revealed that when Andrew Cuomo was in office, the former governor was forced to sign a poorly written nursing home bill that Wilkinson states the health department can't implement. Wilkinson explained that his former boss, then Governor Cuomo, lacked political power, ultimately leading to the signing of the nursing home bill.
And what they do is they require, for one example of what I'm working on most, they require spending requirements for nursing homes. So a nursing home has to spend 70% of its revenue on direct resident care, and that's like defined.
Okay.
And so they can't spend it on paving the driveway or, you know, or fixing the roof. It has to be like
directly patient care.
So here's, let me just say a thing real quick. So I was originally under the impression that this had to do with the, you know, putting people in the nursing homes related to the virus, because that was one of the most insane things ever. But I think what this actually means is that there is someone who owns the nursing homes who has so much political power that it's unbelievable, because that whole thing was so crazy. And now we're talking about another nursing home bill and we're talking about blackmail. So, well, Jesse on Fire, what are you saying? I'm saying if you want to know who's really got juice, start looking into who was driving these nursing home bills and the decision to put the patients in there, in 2020, and start backing into what organizations are actually behind that, because these are two incidents with the nursing homes that clearly indicate we got some bad guys behind there, right? Some incredibly large power.
Yeah.
And then 40% of that has to be resident-facing care. So that's like actual people.
And so when Kathy became the governor, you wanted to change it.
Right.
So you think Cuomo actually handled it pretty well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any lessons learned, mistakes made?
Oh, yeah.
Around nursing homes or just in general?
Everything was because of COVID, everything was updated.
Yeah. What are some of the top ones?
Told you. I knew it. So never mind. I was right. I was correct. So I feel good about that.
Air filtration was updated a lot.
What about operational?
The way they can isolate populations in hospitals and nursing homes got better.
Wilkinson also reveals that some of the sexual misconduct allegations labeled against Cuomo were 100% fake, and agreed with the assertion that Cuomo was blackmailed.
Remember, he was under investigation for a bunch of things.
Are those allegations true?
Some of the allegations are 100% fake, because those girls who were are in the allegations were sitting on his lap taking selfies with him at events.
Were they spies?
And they're and then they came out to support allegations he did this.
So he was.
So let me just say this also. This dude right here has not said anything that, in my eyes, deserves him being looked at negatively from either side. I don't think this guy's done anything wrong. I just want to say that, because that's very rare. Okay, that's very rare. Normally, when these guys get caught on these hidden cameras, I'm like, let's get them. I mean, not get them, but you know what I mean. They're this is a bad guy, right? This dude does not strike me as a bad guy at all. This guy strikes me as someone who is just telling a story that is not well known to the public, that indicts a different group of people. And so for the record, I don't think anybody should be going after this guy, at least so far.
Being blackmailed.
It kind of was.
And he apparently didn't give them what they wanted. That's why they
all they did was get rid of him.
So he's actually.
Yeah, so let me say this. My theory has always from the beginning, okay? I believe the reason why this happened to Cuomo, and I have nothing to support this at all, except for the timeline of events. I think that whoever was running the show during those years, during the pandemic, they were asking him to fire the healthcare workers that wouldn't take the shot in New York, and he was refusing to do it. Because the first thing that happened after he got ousted, when Kathy Hochul took over, was she fired the healthcare workers that wouldn't take the shot. It was the lowest number I've ever seen reported was 33,000 of them. And the high side was something 65 to 70 or something. Thousand. Okay, so let's just take the lowest number. 33,000 people who were the heroes, who had been working in the hospitals, who were treating this thing over and over, who had way more experience than anyone else dealing with it. And they were like, nah, I don't want to take that shot. Who have more information about those types of treatments. And maybe a lot of them have seen things go wrong when people take that type of treatment, right? I'm being very careful on how I talk about this. But obviously, they are going to be way more informed than I am, just as an individual whose only experience has been, okay, I got this shot, this happened. My oldest daughter got this shot and got hurt by one. But nonetheless, they see it all the time. And for whatever reason, they're like, I don't want to take that. Or they're like, I've already had the virus. And Kathy, hooded baby pizza person, she fired them all. It's the first thing she did. So that's always been my theory of what was actually going on with Cuomo and why he actually got ousted.
Not a bad guy.
No. He's handsy.
If you're an insider, email us at tips.
So there you go. That's that one. Okay. So I would assume that probably did not enrage you, because that would be weird if it did. Bottom line, that's a pretty tame one of these compared to what we're used to. Well, buckle your seatbelt for this one, because this one is not so tame. This is one of those ones that's going to make you want to claw your own eyes out of your head, okay? So like I said, this is a transactivist youth director caught on camera discussing how he helps kids transition behind their parents' backs, okay? Just let that sink in. All right, Here we go.
Sparked an investigation into a network of transgender activists. Falsely accused of abuse after her daughter had one meeting with Reverend Aaron Miller, she feared for others. Miller, a transgender pastor, collaborates with transgender life coach Tony Ferraiolo to advocate for transgender youth in Connecticut. Through a series of meetings with the pair, Project Veritas probes how far some activists may go to promote transgender transitions for children without parental consent.
Between me and you, this is not being recorded, I can't know that they don't know. You know what I'm saying? Wink, wink. I don't know how many people we should share that the parents don't know. Do you have a binder? Do you bind your chest? Because we give away free binders. They're supposed to be for 18 plus, because legally that's what we have to do, but we can always give one to Reverend Miller. Whatever he does with it is none of my business, you know what I'm saying?
So it's a compression vest, alright? It compresses the chest. Because it's a binder. I mean, it'd be one thing if we were talking puberty blinders, which I hope we will be.
He needs to move forward with this transition. I'm here now in your life to protect you and to help you move forward.
So I want to make sure that you guys did not miss the part where they said that these guys, they're both trans. These guys are born women, okay? And I realize how insane that probably sounds looking at them, but this is what I've been trying to tell you guys. It's I know someone who was living as a guy when they were 14 years old, 15 years old. And it was the only reason anyone knew is because they had hooked up with this girl that was kind of in a crew that was, they were a year old, the 8th grade, whatever. They were a couple of years older than me. And she hooked up, and then so it got out. It was yeah, that's a girl, Fast forward literally probably 25 years, 25 years later. And I ended up doing a business transaction with this person as a grown up. And I'm telling you that this is what it's like. I mean, if you were walking out, would you ever in a million years be like, oh yeah, that's a woman? No. Okay. When they've been on testosterone for 25, 30 years, they just are a man. You know what I mean? You would never know. And, but if you know what to look for, it's actually kind of obvious with these ones, much more than the one I'm talking about. I mean, probably because they're talking about binding and all of this makes it easier. But if you actually listen to the voice, you're okay, that's maybe. But the fact that they transition, it has nothing to do with anything. Because my problem is about behind the parent's back. That's the problem, okay? That's the problem. To not involve the parents in a thing like this is so beyond. Criminal doesn't even cover it. Criminal doesn't. It's so deeply wrong. And again, very risky, very risky because, you know what I mean? It's you don't know what a parent's going to do. This is a pretty big deal, dude. You just go, oh yeah, hey, I helped your kid slice and dice and then take these. It's are you out of your mind? You don't know the parents. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Okay. You also don't know the kid, right? You have no idea. The kid could have major mental problems and could not actually be trans. I know it's unfathomable to you, but you could be dealing with children who are not trans, and you're basically signing them up for a death sentence because at some point they'll. Anyway.
Okay. Trust. I've helped thousands of kids.
Helped thousands of kids. Maybe.
During an initial call, a 12-year-old girl is introduced to Reverend Miller by a Project Veritas journalist.
That one's also obvious, dude, actually. I mean, just a little bit, just a little bit. You can see that if I had to pick which of these men was born a woman, I actually think I might be able to nail this one. I'm not, who knows?
Veritas journalist. She discusses her struggles with gaining parental acceptance for her chosen name and male identity, Justin.
Justin was assigned female at birth, but Justin wants to be referred to as a male. Mm-hmm. I was thinking that you would be the perfect person to talk to about this.
I identify as a boy, wanted to be a boy. That's how I feel inside. But my parents, they don't support me, and I'm trying to find out how I can really become my true self.
Okay. All right. So for people that have never experienced this like your parents, the first answer or the first reaction can often be, you're not, and not believe you.
Okay. This is okay. I'm honestly gonna cover this as fairly as possible because this guy is trans. This is an actual trans person. Okay. The other dude is an actual trans person. The person I'm talking about from my childhood is an actual trans person. And I can't explain how important it is if you want to fairly approach this issue from the correct point of view from my perspective. You cannot just be like, oh, trans is not a thing, because it is, okay? The problem is not actual transgender people. The problem is a level of societal normalization and glorification that you have out of every 5 people that are now doing some form of puberty blockers or same-sex hormones or opposite-sex hormones. You have 1 that's actually trans, okay? That's the problem. I don't have any issue with someone who's actually transitioning. I don't care. I don't care how anybody lives their life. The difference is about promoting this lifestyle to a point where, or even calling it a lifestyle. Okay? If you keep it in the DSM and it's this is like a disorder. It doesn't, the feeling doesn't match the body. I watched, I very recently watched this interrogation tape of this woman who had murdered these people. She had murdered these people and then fed them to her pigs. I know this is a super weird example, but she was born a man and she had transitioned. Okay. And as part of the interrogation, she had actually not the interrogation. I'm sorry. Someone had gone undercover and taped her talking, and she talks about it. And it's okay, this is she knew from the very, very super early that she was that she had this thing or whatever, that she felt like a woman, whatever. Now, if you ask me what causes this, okay, I'm going to give you a weird answer, but I'm going to give you the answer that I think is certain. I have to go to the nature of reality. And I think that if you understand what DNA is and how it's code, and organic matter, all of this organic matter becomes organic matter through DNA and its code. Okay. What does that probably sound like? Sounds like the entire world is some kind of simulation of some kind. I mean, probably a lot more complex than our brains are capable of understanding. But I think there is a high probability that on the other side of this world, you're going to get unplugged, dude. You're going to live your life, you're going to die, and you're going to get unplugged. And the stories that people have told about dying and then going down a tunnel and, seeing their loved ones, and it's oh, hey, it's not quite your time yet. That could very easily be a way that you transition out of this life that you've just experienced. It could only be an hour over there. It could be 10 minutes, 5 minutes, You plug in, you agree to this life, the parameters of the life, and then you go and you live that life. It seems like 85, 90 years, and it's actually 5 minutes on the other side. And so transitioning out of whatever this thing is could be extremely traumatic for people. And so it's okay, here, this is this this is this process that we ease you out of that and back into, whatever is on the other side of this. I mean, I don't know, dude. This is just me thinking about stuff. But I've thought about, what if people who are women choose to do this experience and they're oh, I want to do one as a man. I want to live a life as a man. And sometimes people who are in the whatever this is, they can't shake the feeling that they're in the wrong body. You know what I mean? They're in a sim and they're actually the opposite gender over there. I don't know, dude. This is just things I've thought about. I don't have any idea. What I do know is that autistic people who are confused about everything in life are getting walked into this process, and they're getting behind their parents' back, gone down this thing, and they're not that thing, and it's wrong. And so people like this has been their experience. They're oh, people didn't believe me, whatever. So of course, if someone comes in there, they're this is what I think I am, they're going to provide advice based on their own experience, because that's what everyone does. Okay? But you can't do it without the parents, because you don't know that fucking kid, dude. You don't know that kid. You don't know that kid at all. That kid's not you. Pastor, whatever. That kid is not you. You don't know. Anyway, let's continue.
Are there any groups for kids that are kind of secret?
We have a circus program but it's for kids. So it's like, I think, how old are you?
12.
12, yeah. So that you're right in the perfect age. So we don't tell anybody. No. Well, yes, they'll never know. We don't tell anybody where these are being held.
Perfect.
There's one every other week is in Middletown, and every other week is in New Haven. Like I said, I have somebody who's awesome, absolutely awesome to talk to them, and who will talk to you too, Justin, about how you're feeling, what you need, and all of that. But his name is Tony Ferry.
And they'll never know. Like, how on earth could you possibly think that you're the good guys here when you are collaborating with a child to deceive their parents about something that is going to change their life forever? Okay. That is, I understand you're gay or what. I don't even know what you are, guy, but you're a pastor who's also trans. So the likelihood that you've ever procreated seems extraordinarily low to me. I don't know. Who knows? Right. But you don't know, like, you are not in a position to do this, nor to have an opinion on this whatsoever, because you don't have kids, okay? If you don't have kids, don't talk about what people should do with their kids, and certainly don't talk about what policy should be about how people parent their kids or deal with their kids, dude. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about, okay? That's why I always say that these groups that are like, oh, the anti whatever, like this big thing where they push it like to be childless whatever. And they're like, you don't get it. I get to do whatever I want. I get to do whatever. And I have no problem with people who don't have kids. I really don't. But people who promote that lifestyle and try to shame people who do have kids, I'm like, you're an idiot, okay? Because when they try to talk about the downsides of having children, you're like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You can look and go, oh yeah, it limits my ability to do whatever, but you have no idea what you're talking about because you don't have kids. You don't know what the positives are, whether or not the positives are going to outweigh the negatives. You know the negatives because it's obvious, because you are living this life. The second you have a kid, now everyone who has children knows both sides of the fence. Okay, you over there who have never had kids, you don't. So your opinion is absurd. Like, I know exactly what it's like to not have kids, and I know exactly what it's like to have kids. So don't fucking tell me for my own life whether this outweighs this or that, because I know and you don't. So it's like an uneducated, and in this case, it's kind of unbelievable, honestly, when you think about it.
Very low.
My nephew Justin, 12 years old.
Hey, Justin.
He's having a really hard time with everything going on, the transition. And I spoke with Pastor Aaron, and he recommended that we reach out to you.
Where are the parents, and what are they going through right now?
They just don't believe it. They just think, well, you're born a girl, then you're a girl. They don't think that you can change.
Yeah, guess what? We can't. I transitioned actually.
So, in case you guys missed kind of why I took kind of like a, one of those pauses, is because now you've made crystal clear, pastor or whatever your name is, he sees parents as adversaries. Okay? Like, that was very clear. Oh, the parents think, no, you're born a girl, you're whatever. And he goes, oh yeah, well, guess what? You can. And now I don't even need to hear anything else from this guy. I already know you are an enemy of the parents. Okay? You don't know this kid. You have no idea what you're talking about. You met this kid 5 seconds ago. 5 seconds ago. You met that kid 5 seconds ago. Guess what? We can. So what? There are no kids. Like, you don't know if the kid has autism. You don't know if the kid has mental problems. You don't know anything aside from the fact that someone said the parents believe that they're just a girl, and now you've already taken an adversarial role. That's the problem right there. You aren't them, guy, girl, whatever.
20 years ago. So in 2005, I transitioned, and there was no one to guide me or anything. So at that moment, I started working with trans youth and their families. The first thing you would want are blockers, right? Puberty blockers? Yeah. And then eventually, would you want to be on testosterone?
Yep.
How about top surgery? Have you thought about top surgery? Yes. Okay. He needs to move forward with this transition.
Yeah.
And is he getting his periods already?
No, not yet.
Okay. Because there's no way we can sneak blockers. You can't do it. They're, especially nowadays, the legality, and no doctor is going to touch a 12-year-old without parents' consent. The youth group is almost.
Hey, but you would. Oh my God, that is that's unbelievable to me. So what you know so far is they're 12, they're prepubescent, and they say that they want top surgery, puberty blockers, and testosterone, and you're on board with that immediately, and you're going to help them do it. That's it. Just like that. That is shocking. That is absolutely shocking. Okay, I'm going to cut this off. You guys can watch the rest of this yourselves on Project Veritas. I don't want to suck up all their, I don't want to like take up their whole thing, but I'm going to just stop talking right now, actually. I think it would be best if I just don't talk.